Welcome to the Solid Signal podcast for the week of September 18th, 2023. Now, if you've been reading the Solid Signal blog or any of the other tech blogs out there, you probably are aware that on Sunday, yesterday, as I'm recording this, Sunday, September 17th, DIRECTV was allowed to once again turn on feeds from stations owned by Nexstar Media Group so that the folks who were not able to get NFL football for the last couple of weeks were able to get an NFL football yesterday. Now, they said when they did this that they were going to continue negotiations, but I think that it was a fair bet that things were going to be concluded within 24 hours at that point. And in fact, they were. This morning at about 9 o'clock Eastern time, the two parties issued a joint statement saying that they had come to an agreement and that everything was just hunky-dory on both sides. And they're glad to be done with all of that. And all I can say honestly is I'm not, I wasn't in the room. I wasn't a lawyer. And I'm not ever going to be a lawyer. So I'll never have the benefit of knowing exactly what went on in that room between DIRECTV and Nexstar. But I have to say, I really think that Nexstar probably caved. I think that what happened last week was Spectrum really seemed to have handed Disney their hat. If you were reading any of this, Spectrum and Disney couldn't come to an agreement, and that meant that ESPN was blocked on all Spectrum customers' TVs and in owned and operated markets like New York and Los Angeles. The ABC affiliate was blocked out, and of course all the Disney Channel content was blocked out too. And so the interesting thing is that it was believed that the impasse was that Spectrum wanted Disney to give all Spectrum customers free Disney Plus, and Disney didn't want to do that. And it turns out that they must have decided they did want to do that, because it didn't take very long for that to get resolved and for Disney to just say, well, okay, I guess getting money from somewhere somehow is better than nowhere. And I want to say that I really think that this is what happened with Nexstar. It's one thing to say, oh, well, we're not going to carry your stations when there's nothing to watch. But once football rolls in, once you start seeing network programming start to perk up, even in this somewhat laid back kind of environment where between the writer's strike and the actor's strikes, there's not going to be a lot of content out there, and at least not scripted content. But once you start to see that content start to trickle in, well, everybody gets nervous, because everybody is going to start losing a lot of money. And it's Nexstar that loses the money. It's not really DIRECTV, because they get some benefit from advertising on these sort of things, but it's Nexstar that's the big loser when it turns out that you've got a channel blackout that's really driving people's activities. If it's stopping them from signing up for DIRECTV, or it's just stopping them from watching. Anyway, bottom line is that Nexstar seems to have come to its senses, and the whole thing was resolved. And that gives me hope that we can avoid this kind of problem in the future. I really think there's a strong possibility that we just aren't going to see this kind of problem in the future, because honestly, if things had just gone on and on and on and on, and it looked like Disney and Nexstar were going to have won, then yeah, that would have emboldened all of these content providers to dig in their heels and kind of push for higher rates that would have hurt everybody. On the other hand, that's not how it went. That's absolutely not how it went. And I think that we are all really glad to know it. Meanwhile, we are coming into almost first day of fall, and that's exciting for me for a number of reasons. We've got football, we've got baseball, we're getting into playoff season with baseball, and right on the heels of that, of course, comes basketball. Right on the heels of that comes hockey. It's a great time to be a sports fan, and there really is no better place to get sports than DIRECTV, because even though they don't have Sunday Ticket, they do have all the other packages, and they've got Sports Central, which I recently reviewed on our Solid Signal YouTube channel. If you haven't watched it, it's one of our more popular videos, and I encourage you to watch it. It's about 10 minutes long. Tell you everything that you need to know about DIRECTV Sports Central. Plus, I have to say, even I am surprised by exactly how quickly our H26K and Gemini receivers have been flying off the shelves. We're having trouble keeping them in stock, folks, and I got to tell you, I mean, I don't want to be that kind of guy who's pushing you into making a purchase, but if you want an H26K receiver for your business because you're trying to replace an older receiver that's failing, or you want to upgrade with the latest and greatest, you want to do it now. And if you are at home and you want to have the benefit of a single voice controlled remote, not having to change inputs on any box, and a sleek, cool looking box for DirecTV satellite, you want to get the Genie. So you're going to want to make these choices sooner or later, but it better be sooner, because I think you're going to want to go to solidsignal.com, pick up the H26K or the Gemini, or even if you have DirecTV for internet, pick up the Gemini Air, because these have been incredibly successful. I'm surprised that we are seeing the demand for them that we are, even though I think they are really great devices. There's no question about that. But just the demand being so strong is something that I think it echoes the overall strength of the market. I was reading just yesterday that Apple was incredibly surprised by the strong response to its iPhone 15. And you know, if you're interested in an iPhone 15, by the way, and you haven't pre-ordered, Solid Signal, we can activate those things for you too. It's not something we do all the time, but it is something we do enough that we can make sure that you're completely taken care of. But Apple seems to have thought that people wouldn't go for the iPhone 15 Pro in the numbers that they have, and yet it turns out that they really are. It turns out that people are very pleased, especially with the Pro model, and how it seems to be noticeably feeling a lot lighter than previous model, and it's got the better camera, it's got more light, it's got a lot of features people want. And when I look at this, I think that it speaks really well to the overall tech sector as we come into the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter tends to be really driven by consumer spending, not necessarily business spending, and so consumer electronics tend to do well, even though businesses don't necessarily buy at that time. It is a great time for consumer electronics in general, and I think that's going to be really good for our e-commerce arm, solidsignal.com. It's also going to be great for our folks at Signal Connect, the business-to-business arm, who are going to be able to help you really get connected with whether it's DirecTV, Dish, Starlink, any sort of internet service that you need for your home, RV, boat, whatever. It means it's going to be a really strong fall leading into a really strong winter. And that's why I'm urging you, I'm begging you at this point, if you've been on the sidelines, if you haven't been thinking about whether or not you should make that move, make that upgrade that you really want, this is the time, folks. This is the time to do it, because, you know, there could be shortages as we come into the fall and winter of this stuff. I think that demand for all of these things, whether it's phones or DirecTV boxes or other services, is a lot stronger than anybody thought. And so you want to get in before those shortages really happen. I hardly need to tell you how things were for a couple of years where you couldn't get anything, how you really just had to endure shortages of everything. Nobody wants to go back to that, but yet somebody is going to get caught with a long wait for the thing that they want if they don't order soon enough. So do me a favor. Call my friends at Signal Group. The Signal Group is the parent company that owns Signal Connect, our corporate and business arm, solidsignal.com, our e-commerce arm, and our Amazon store, where you can shop at Amazon and buy Solid Signal products, no problem, and get prime shipping if you want to do it that way. But call us. Call us at 888-233-7563 with any questions. Shop at solidsignal.com. I can't say enough about these folks, and it's because they do sponsor this podcast. I'll be really honest with you, but you know, I've been with the organization for 12 years. That's a long time to be with anybody, especially in this day and age. And the reason that I stay, it's not just because they want me to stay. It's not just because they pay me. It's because I want to stay. It's because it's a great group of people. It's because it's the kind of place that you want to do business with. You want to do business with them personally, and you want to do business with them professionally. Don't believe me? That's okay. Be skeptical. Do yourself a favor. Find out for yourself. Like I said, call the experts. 888-233-7563 is the number. During East Coast business hours is best. If it's after hours, then go to blog.solidsignal.com. Pick virtually any article is going to have a contact form at the bottom of it. Or go to signalconnect.com. Practically every page has a contact form at the bottom of it. Get in touch with these folks because, even though we are here, we are ready to take care of you now. With the demand this strong, I don't want to make promises for as crazy as it's going to get this fall and winter. That's about it for this week's Solid Signal podcast. Do me the favor of liking, subscribing, leaving a comment anywhere that you get this podcast. Makes me look good to my bosses. And visit blog.solidsignal.com and signalconnect.com to find out more about what the sponsors of this podcast are all about. Visit solidsignal.com and, just kind of keep it all in the family. And meantime, have a great week. Looks like things are looking up for everybody.